she discovered her sister was also his wife. Elena stood by the window of their cozy, sunlit apartment, cradling a steaming mug of coffee in her hands. The gentle hum of the city below rose up like a lullaby, and for a moment, everything felt just right. 2 years into her marriage with Daniel, she often found herself marveling at how lucky she was. He was attentive, charming, and always knew how to make her laugh. Sometimes with a cheesy joke, other times just with the way he'd look at her as if she were the only person in the world. They had met at a friend's engagement party, both reaching for the last mini quiche on the platter. A laugh, a shared bite, and a surprisingly deep conversation later, it felt like they had known each other for years. Their courtship was fast but full of passion. Weekend getaways, long walks, nights filled with whispered dreams of the future. Marriage had only deepened their bond, or so she believed. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, breaking her reverie. It was a call from an unknown number. She hesitated. Normally she wouldn't answer, but something, intuition maybe, nudged her. She tapped to play the voicemail. Elena, I don't know if you'll hear this. I think I messed up. I didn't know he was your husband. Please, call me back. The voice was shaky, urgent, and deeply familiar. Her heart skipped. No name, just panic in the woman's voice. She listened again, frowning. Where had she heard that voice before? Something inside her stirred, a knot tightening in her stomach. Daniel walked in, smiling, asking what she wanted for breakfast. She turned slowly, the phone still in her hand, a strange chill running down her spine. The perfect life suddenly didn't feel so perfect anymore. Elena couldn't shake the feeling that the voicemail had cracked something deep beneath the surface of her world. She replayed it again, standing in the dim hallway just outside the kitchen. The woman's voice trembled with emotion, fear, maybe guilt, but it was that familiarity that gnawed at Elena the most. It had been years since she last heard her sister Lila speak, but something about the tone, the cadence, the slight rasp, it clawed at her memory like a whisper from the past. Could it really be her? Daniel's voice interrupted her thoughts. Everything okay? He asked casually, his head poking into the hallway. He had 2 cups of coffee in his hands and that boyish smile he always wore when trying to lighten her mood. Elena hesitated. I just got a weird voicemail. A woman. She sounded upset. Said something about not knowing you were my husband. No name, just panic. Daniel frowned, handing her one of the cups. Probably a work thing, he said a little too quickly. I've been dealing with some messy client issues. People call the wrong numbers all the time. You know how that goes. She narrowed her eyes slightly. She didn't mention your name. Exactly, he said, taking a sip. Probably spam or a mistake. Try not to think about it. But Elena was already thinking about it. The way Daniel's eyes didn't quite meet hers. The sharpness in his tone that hadn't been there a moment ago. She'd seen him navigate high-pressure situations, remain calm in the face of real chaos. But now, his casual demeanor felt rehearsed, like he was covering something. She nodded slowly, pretending to let it go. But in the back of her mind, something whispered louder with each passing minute. That voice wasn't just familiar. It was family. And Daniel knew exactly who had called. Elena and Lila had once been inseparable. Just a year apart in age, they had grown up sharing everything. Secrets whispered under covers, clothes stolen from each other's closets, even birthday cakes split down the middle. Their bond had always felt unbreakable, like a language only the 2 of them could understand. But everything changed 5 years ago. It had started with arguments, small, sharp ones that slowly turned into shouting matches. Lila had become distant, erratic even, closing herself off from the family with a silence that was louder than any fight. One day, she simply vanished. No goodbye, no explanation. Elena had come home from college for the weekend to find her sister's room stripped of anything personal, just a bare mattress and a few hangers left in the closet. Their parents offered no answers, only tight-lipped expressions and vague reassurances that Lila needed space. Rumors swirled. Some said she'd moved to another city with a man, others whispered she had fallen into trouble. But no one knew for sure. Elena had tried reaching out, calling, emailing, but everything went unanswered. After months of silence, grief turned to resentment. The unanswered questions hardened her heart. There were moments, though, sudden flashes, when Elena would remember Lila's quiet sobs behind closed doors, the bruises she'd once brushed off as clumsiness, or the way she flinched at raised voices. Something had happened back then, something Elena hadn't seen clearly at the time. Now, with that mysterious voicemail ringing in her ears, those old memories rushed back with new clarity. And with them, a terrible question formed. Had Lila been running from something all along, and had Elena just married it? Elena sat cross-legged on the floor of her closet, thumbing through an old shoebox of photographs she hadn't opened in years. She told herself it was just nostalgia, a way to clear her mind, but deep down she was searching, though for what, she wasn't sure. The stack of photos smelled like dust and childhood, the edges curled slightly from time. Birthday parties, beach trips, Christmas mornings, all frozen moments of a simpler time. Then she stopped. Her fingers froze on a photo of Lila, laughing in a dimly lit bar. She looked vibrant, happy, before she vanished. But it wasn't her smile that chilled Elena. It was the man in the background, half turned toward the camera, a glass in hand. Daniel. Younger. His hair was a bit longer, his jawline not yet sharpened with age, but unmistakably him. He wasn't looking at Lila, he was looking at the photographer. At Elena, maybe? No, she hadn't been there. She would have remembered. She studied the timestamp on the back, July, 5 years ago. A year before she even met him. Her breath caught in her throat. What was he doing there? With her sister? And why had he never said a word about it? The box slipped from her lap. Elena couldn't sleep. Days passed in a fog of half-spoken questions and tight smiles, but inside, her mind was spinning. The photo had cracked something open, and the crack was growing wider with every unanswered thought. Confronting Daniel seemed pointless. She no longer trusted his words. Instead, she found herself standing in a nondescript office 2 blocks from downtown, across from a woman in a navy blazer who introduced herself simply as Harper. Private investigator. I need to know where he goes when he says he's traveling for work, Elena said, voice trembling but determined. I think he's lying to me. I think he might be connected to my sister. Harper didn't flinch. I'll need a week, she said. 5 days later, Elena sat frozen on her living room couch as Harper placed a manila folder in her lap. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Daniel, wearing sunglasses and that same leather jacket he told Elena he had lost last year, standing outside a small apartment complex in another city, one Elena had never visited. Then, the next photo, the apartment door opening. A woman stepping out. Lila. It was unmistakable. Her hair was longer, darker, but the face was the same, the curve of her jaw, the cautious smile. In one photo, she even reached out and touched Daniel's cheek. Familiar. Intimate. Not a reunion. Something much more established. Something regular. Elena felt her breath leave her in one long, crushing exhale. Her heart pounded in her ears as Harper quietly gathered the rest of the documents and slid them into a folder. He's been there 3 times in the last month, Harper said gently. Always the same apartment. Always the same woman. Elena didn't respond. She couldn't. The walls of her life were caving in, collapsing under the weight of betrayal. Daniel hadn't just lied to her, he had built a second life. And that life had her sister in it. Elena stood in front of the apartment door, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. She stared at the peeling number on the door, 4B, half hoping she'd knock and no one would answer, half hoping the whole thing was a mistake. But the moment the door opened and she saw Lila's face, every hope crumbled. Lila's eyes widened. She froze, her mouth parting in disbelief. Elena. Elena didn't wait for an invitation. She stepped inside, brushing past her sister, her heartbeat thudding like a war drum in her chest. You have 5 seconds to tell me what the hell is going on. The apartment was small but neat. Lila followed her into the living room, her face pale. I didn't expect you here. I don't know what to say. Try the truth. Lila's lip trembled. She looked away as if staring into the past. I didn't know he was your husband. Not at first. I swear. You married him, Lila, Elena said, her voice cracking. 3 years ago. I saw the photos. I've seen you with him. Lila collapsed onto the couch, her hands shaking. He told me he was in danger, that we couldn't live together, that it wasn't safe. So we stayed apart. We kept it quiet. He convinced me it was better that way. Better for who? Elena snapped. You disappeared. You left your family. And you married my husband? Tears welled in Lila's eyes. I didn't know it was you until I heard your name. Until I heard him say it in passing. I thought maybe I was imagining things. I tried to leave. I tried to walk away, but I loved him. I still do. Elena turned away, the betrayal stinging worse coming from her own blood. He's been lying to both of us, Lila. He's not protecting you. He's using you. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was thick with pain, shame, and something far worse, the knowledge that they had both been living a lie. And the man at the center of it all was still out there, wearing a smile like nothing was wrong. Elena walked through the front door with a stillness that masked the storm inside her. Daniel was in the kitchen, casually slicing a lime, the scent of something simmering on the stove filling the air. He turned with that effortless smile, but it faded the moment he saw her face. We need to talk, she said, her voice like ice. He set the knife down slowly. What's going on? I saw Lila, she said. I know everything. Daniel blinked, then laughed, a short, nervous chuckle. Everything? What does that even mean? Don't play dumb. I know you're married to her. I saw the photos. I've been to her apartment. His face twitched. Elena, you're upset. Someone is clearly trying to confuse you. I don't know what you think you saw. Don't lie to me again. Her voice cracked, low and shaking. She told me everything. About how you married her. About how you said you were in danger. How you disappeared from her life just long enough to build one with me. Daniel rubbed his temples and let out a slow breath. It's complicated. Try me, she snapped. I love you, he said. But I loved her too. Still do. I didn't plan for this to happen, it just did. I met her years ago, before you, in another country. We got married, yes, but under different names. It was legal there. I never thought the two worlds would collide. You thought you could manage it, Elena whispered. He didn't deny it. She stared at him like she was seeing a stranger. You didn't just betray me. You ruined 2 lives. Daniel reached for her hand, but she stepped back. Whatever love had once been there, it was buried now, under a mountain of lies and the wreckage of 2 marriages. Elena sat across from Lila at a quiet cafe on the edge of town, her coffee untouched and cold. The silence between them wasn't hostile, it was heavy, reflective, filled with questions neither dared to speak aloud. For the first time in years, they were in each other's lives again, but under the weight of a secret that could destroy them both. I keep asking myself how I didn't see it, Lila murmured, tracing the rim of her mug with a trembling finger. How I didn't know he was lying. To both of us. Elena gave a sad smile. You weren't the only one blind. I thought I had the perfect marriage. Turns out I had half of one. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the anger softened. It wasn't gone, just pushed aside by something older, deeper. Sisterhood. Shared history. Years of silence now replaced by a mutual ache neither could ignore. I feel like we're both victims, Lila said. But part of me hates myself for loving him still. For believing him. You're not the only one, Elena replied. But now that we know the truth, we have a choice. We can walk away. Pretend he doesn't exist. Let him keep living his lie with someone else someday. Or, Lila asked, or we end it on our terms. The pause. Lila's eyes hardened slightly. What do you mean? Elena leaned in, voice low. He thinks he's smarter than both of us. That he can keep juggling the truth. So let's give him a show he won't forget. We trap him. Together. Lila hesitated, then nodded slowly. For us. For every lie he told. They weren't just reclaiming their truth, they were reclaiming their bond. The damage was deep, but in this moment, they weren't broken. They were united. And Daniel wouldn't see it coming. It took weeks of planning. Quiet meetings, burner phones, whispered strategies exchanged in coded emails. Elena and Lila became co-conspirators, two women bound not by vengeance but by a shared need for truth. They set the stage carefully. A rented hotel suite, wired with discreet cameras and mics, every detail calculated to make Daniel feel in control. Elena sent him a message, "We need to talk. Just us. No more lies." He agreed, smugly confident, unaware that his double life was about to collapse. When he walked into the suite, Elena greeted him with a soft voice and tired eyes, feigning forgiveness. "I just want to understand," she said. "Please. Just tell me the whole truth. All of it." Daniel took the bait. He began weaving his story, emboldened by her apparent vulnerability. He admitted to marrying Lila under another name, to manipulating their emotions, to playing both sides for years. "You both loved me," he said almost proudly. "I never meant to hurt anyone. I just kept control. It was working." Then he slipped. He mentioned how money had helped keep things quiet. The transfers, the shell companies, how he used one business to funnel money to another under Lila's name, without her knowledge. That was all Elena needed. Behind the wall, Lila listened with her hands shaking, tears streaming down her face, not from heartbreak this time, but from rage and relief. They had him. The next morning, they submitted the full footage to the authorities, along with a folder of financial records Lila had dug up from a shared storage unit Daniel thought she'd forgotten. It didn't take long. Investigators opened a full-scale inquiry. Charges began to stack. For the first time in years, Elena and Lila stood side by side. Bruised, yes, but stronger. The truth was ugly. But it was finally out. The news broke like wildfire. Local entrepreneur arrested for bigamy and financial fraud blared across headlines, accompanied by photos of Daniel being led out of his office in handcuffs. His polished image as a charismatic businessman shattered instantly. Reporters dug into every detail: 2 marriages, 2 identities, shell companies, falsified tax records. But beyond the scandal, the story that caught the public's imagination was that of 2 sisters, once estranged, now united, to expose the man who betrayed them both. Elena and Lila watched it unfold from the quiet of Elena's apartment. The TV buzzed softly in the background as images flickered by, but neither of them paid it much attention anymore. The chaos had passed. The dust was settling. For the first time in years, they were sharing more than space. They were sharing truth. Painful truths, yes, but honest ones. Their conversations no longer carried the sharp edge of blame or resentment. Instead, they were filled with cautious trust, slow healing, and the laughter of memories rediscovered. "It's insane, right?" Lila said one afternoon, curled up on the couch beside her sister. "We almost let him break us for good." Elena smiled, stirring her tea. "But we didn't. We found each other again. That's something." They sat in silence for a moment, letting the warmth of the thought linger. Outside, the world continued spinning, full of noise and headlines and stories. But inside, there was peace. Not perfection, just peace. Lila leaned over and nudged Elena playfully. "Remember that summer we tried to make our own lemonade stand and ended up giving it all away for free?" Elena burst out laughing. "Because you told people it was, pay what you feel. We made 20 cents and a pile of IOUs." Laughter filled the room, light, real, unforced. The kind that echoed with shared history and a future no longer dictated by a man's lies. They had reclaimed their stories, not just as women wronged, but as women who rose, stronger, wiser, and together. Justice had been served, but more importantly, the silence between them had been broken. And in its place bloomed something beautiful, sisterhood renewed, and freedom hard-earned. Months passed, and life began to take new shape. Elena launched a blog titled Unbroken Truths, where she wrote candidly about betrayal, healing, and the quiet strength women carry. Her words resonated with thousands, sparking conversations she once feared having. Lila, too, found her purpose. She opened a small counseling center for women fleeing manipulation and abuse, offering them what she once needed: safety, understanding, and hope. The past still lingered in quiet moments, but it no longer held them hostage. They had turned their pain into power, and from the wreckage, they built something lasting. New beginnings rooted in truth.